Good evening and a very warm welcome on behalf of Roli Books. Thank you very much for coming on a Sunday evening. I'm sure it's not because of Roli Books but because of Harinder Baweja. So thank you once again. A very special thank you to our esteemed chief guest this evening, Captain Amarinder Singh, former Chief Minister of Punjab, Dr. Farooq Abdullah, President of the National Conference and 3 times Chief Minister of Jammu and Kashmir, Mr. Omar Abdullah, Chief Minister of Jammu and Kashmir, Rajdeep Sardesai, and my dear friend and author and tormentor of many, Harinder Baweja. May I please request you to come on stage, Captain Amarinder Singh, Mr. Abdullah, and Shammi and Rajdeep. Thank you.
Sir, any of the...
Anywhere you like.
Are you
Yes.
okay?
Okay, there? No, sir, I'm at the corner. Come on, you're next to Captain.
It's okay. Oh, fine.
Shammi on that last. But you're speaking first. Okay. Thank you. At Roli, we pick our books with care. Before a book reaches the world, many hands from the Roli team touch it, each leaving their fingerprints on every page. I am very proud to say that pretty much more than half the office has worked on this book in some capacity or the other. I love every book that we publish, but I must admit that some books are more special than others, and the book that we celebrate tonight is one of them. I have known Shammi for a very long time, before she became a Roli author. She was my parents' friend, a respected journalist when I was just a lowly intern at India Today during the Kargil War in 1999. Shammi, known for her sleeveless outfits, often mistaken for a man thanks to her byline, always ready to win an argument, has always been one of the most fearless journalists I've known, with integrity beyond measure. So imagine my delight when she agreed to let us publish her memoir. Shammi's book is a mirror of her life, brutally honest, full of hope even in despair, sprinkled with Muhammad Rafi, and infused with empathy for the people of her country. She has poured her heartaches, her learnings, her successes, and her wisdom into these pages. It's the first draft of the contemporary history of conflict that we in the subcontinent have seen in the last 40 years. This packed hall and the presence of our esteemed guests is a testament to both Shammi the friend and Harinder the journalist, and I could not be prouder to be her publisher. Read the book. I guarantee you, you will not be able to put it down. Shammi has very kindly signed 200 copies. So everyone who buys a copy tonight will get a signed copy, but if you're lucky and you grab her, you'll be able to get her to sign it as well. I would now like to invite Shammi to say a few words. Thank you.
Thank you for your kind words, Priya. More than me being fearless, actually there was a time when journalism was fearless. We were trained to hold truth to power. Today, unfortunately, we're conquering Lahore one day and Karachi the other, but let me not digress. Hello, good evening, and a very warm welcome to each one of you. Captain Amarinder Singh, Omar Abdullah, thank you so very much for making the time to release the book. Together, you encapsulate my journey from Punjab to Pahalgam. If 4 decades of my journey through conflict now lie within the folds of a book, it is due entirely to my publishers, Priya and Kapil Kapoor. Interestingly, they called me for a different project which they wanted me to co-author, and I said, no way, sorry, I have an idea of my own. A short telephone conversation led to the book contract landing in my inbox the very next morning. So I had no option but to commit myself to the book and to an idea that had been in my head for several years. My gratitude to the entire team at Roli Books, especially to Priya, who neither asked for a synopsis nor for an advance chapter. Thank you for trusting me, Priya. My life through conflict started in Punjab, and Captain Amarinder Singh, former Chief Minister of the state, was amongst the first people I met. He has trusted me with information, given me fresh material for this book, and as the book reveals, he was even responsible for saving my life. Thank you, Captain Saab, for being here. I don't know if you recall, but you have even cooked for me and shared royal recipes in Patiala. Omar Abdullah, Chief Minister of Jammu and Kashmir, and I also go back about a quarter century, and he has always been generous with his time. He has spoken to me during turbulent phases, when few politicians would make time for the media, and for that I thank him. I must admit, though, that I have often been a pest. If I have bombarded you, Omar Saab, with messages once too often, I do apologize. But if I do that again, you will know why. I appreciate the honesty with which you speak, even of your own mistakes, and so pursue you, I will. You helped me update the book after the attack in Taliban. The brutal killing of innocents at the meadow in By 7 is a reminder of the fact that we continue to live in conflicted times. When I started sending out invites for the launch, I also messaged Dr. Farooq Abdullah. He immediately called me and said, Harinder, मैं ज़रूर आऊँगा, मुझे एक हफ्ता पहले याद दिलाना. I did that. I am honored to have you here this evening, Farooq Saab. You took on tough questions from me during the 90s when the insurgency was raging. I remember many an occasion when you've raised your voice and then we've laughed together. I have liberally quoted portions of the interviews you have given me in the book. I don't want to dwell too much on the book or reveal its details. My friend and colleague Rajdeep Sardesai will take us through some of the chapters. Do remember, Rajdeep, this is a book launch. Not one of your heated television debates. So there's no need to bring out the knife. I am overwhelmed with the large number of friends who have come here today. Friends have landed from Canada, from Dubai, from Bengaluru, Chandigarh. Everyone's raising their hands. Dehradun, Mumbai, Karnal, Ambala, everybody's here, Gurgaon. The hall, as you can see, is full of family and friends. Many contacts and sources who helped me through my career have now joined my circle of friends, and there are many here today as well. General Dua sitting in front of me, so salam, Dua sahab. And the other friends, if I start naming everybody, we'll reach tomorrow. To each one present here, my heartfelt gratitude. I must end with a big thank you to my friend, editor and author, Poonam Saxena, because she read each chapter as I wrote it. Thank you, Poonam, for your patience and your feedback. Covering conflict is never easy. Doing so for 40 years comes with various lessons, both personal and professional. I have tried to detail the seismic shifts that India has witnessed in the last 40 years in my book. I do hope you will read it and share your feedback too. Thank you all once again. Thank you.
Thank you, Shammi. Captain Amarinder Singh, if I could please request you to say a few words, and you can do that sitting from there. Yes. Thank you.
My distinguished friend, Dr. Farooq Abdullah, who I have known since 43 years now, when we both came to Parliament together. Next to you, Manish Tiwari, another dear friend. I can't recognize everyone, but certainly I'm going to do two people. One is Shekhar Gupta, who I have known perhaps, for I don't know how many years it is, and Kanwar Sandhu, another one who's been, I don't know if you have seen Kanwar Sandhu's latest documentary on Blue Star. It's a 9-part documentary, brilliantly made, and tells the truth. A lot of things there which I didn't know myself about. So I think some of you who haven't seen it, it's on his Day and Night channel, you must see it. And I think it'll give you a new perspective of what really transpired in those days. After Blue Star, I think maybe a few weeks after, the Jathedar of the Akal Takht sent a message to all of us who were not in jail to come and have a meeting at Gurdwara Shahida, which was just next to the Golden Temple. And we went there, and when we got there was my friend who was the former speaker, Rajdeep Singh, myself, another minister who had resigned, Chotepur, and an MLA from Taran Taran who knew that area. So we arrived there and we found it totally barricaded by the police. Nothing was, not even a little inch for us to get in. So we went up and down, the gates were shut, everything was shut, even the wiring was, there were policemen everywhere. And then as we came back the third time, a little boy, 9-year-old, he stops the car. And he said, gee, so we stopped. I was driving, he came up to the car. And he said, Andar jana hai? I said, haan, andar jana hai. Kehne gaddi ure chhad deo and come with me. So I said, really? We switched off the car and all four of us went. He took us into his house. And we went through the house to the last room, which had been, the wall had been, big hole had been made there, so we went through the hole into somebody else's house. And then somebody else's house till we finally arrived inside the Gurdwara Sahib. And very soon the Gurdwara started filling up. And the police, I saw, they were sort of talking to themselves and wondering where the heck is this crowd coming from. And we had waited that way. Now it was a difficult time. Blue Star had taken place, tempers were high, but people came. And very soon they didn't allow us in the Gurdwara, but outside there was a big platform and there was a little raised area. And we sat on that raised area, and there was the Guru Sahib's takht there, which is the Guru Maharaj's Prakash was there. So when we were sitting, it started raining. So my friend Rajdeep Sardesai picked up somebody's umbrella and held it over the Guru Granth Sahib. Then suddenly, from the side of the Gurdwara Sahib is near that wall, we were here. From behind that, firing started. The police opened fire. What they were firing at, I don't know. I think they were probably firing in the air to scare people. And there was a total stampede, exodus of people who came out and just rushed past. It had been raining, people were thrown on the ground, people were being stamped, and I was sitting on the side of the Guru Granth Sahib, and there was a little girl sitting in front of me. And she was suddenly pushed and she went flying, and then she came back to her position. So I saw that these hordes were coming and they were going by us, thinking that the firing was coming from there so they could get through some area this side. And when she came back to her position, the crowd started again. People were being flung all over and it was slippery on the ground. And I put my hand down and I caught her by the neck and I pulled her up, the scruff of her neck. And she sat down. I said, you sit here now. And so she sat. And the whole thing was over. Doors were open and people started moving out. And so I asked her, I said, who are you? She said, I work for the Sunday Observer. I said, who are you? She said, I'm Harinder Baweja. And there she was. So I said, where are you staying? So she said, in some hotel. She gave me a knife. So I said, no, you don't move. You come here, sit with us. We put her in the car and we went and dropped her at a hotel. Wasn't that it, Harinder?
That's
And here you are.
Amritsar International Hotel.
in Amritsar Hotel. So that was this young lady here. And what she did after that, that was Blue Star period. Then terrorism started. And it became a vicious sort of a cycle in the state. Those who had gone, Bhindranwale and the others who had gone, have all went. Then a new generation came up. The so-called Panthik Committee came up. Then there was the Khalistan Commando Force, Rajasthani, Badhawa Singh, God knows how many Singhs they were, they all came up. And she used to go and interview them. So I think this title of her book is apt. Because when you met Jagir Singh also, the head of the Panthik Committee, and he was quite a vicious character. And he listened to her and all, but he had his own way of thinking, and all of them had their own ways of thinking. But it was that period right up to, I would say, the assassination of our Chief Minister, Rajdeep Singh. It was a very difficult period. A lot of people were killed. If any of you want to know, during that period, Communist Party of India, Satpal Dangji from Amritsar, he has written a book where he's listed all those who were wounded or killed during that period. I can't give you the figures because the book is nothing but figures of from this village and that village. But I know in my own village, where I was parliamentary member from, Patiala, we have a village called Laladu, which is the last village when you go from Chandigarh to Ambala. The last Punjabi village was Laladu. In one day they came and killed 30 people. In Telma and Kapurthala, Hindus were taken out of the buses and shot dead. And there were, I remember in one of my villages called Balbeda on the Patiala Gula Road, Catholic Road, there were people in the morning, Artiyas, who were sitting in the mandi and sunning themselves, and these fellows came and shot them all. Now that was the state of affairs. And for people to go into Punjab and go into what we call the Lion's Den, he was one of them. And so was Shekhar, so was Kamar. I wish I could make out, with times have passed, faces have changed, so I can't recognize many people. But there were so many brave people then who did this, and they did it, it was their profession, and they did it because it was their conviction. And I'm very happy to be here this evening to see Harinder, to see you all, and to all of you who were participants in that period, during that period, my thanks to you all, because it was then that things started changing. When you started doing your, bringing things out into the public, then gradually things started changing too. And finally, we came down to peace. And I hope, despite the fact that Punjab is going through a very difficult time at the moment, just a minute on that, we have 13,400 villages, out of which 200 villages are what we call Bechirag. They are not inhabited. And out of the 13,200, nearly 2,400 villages have disappeared. We are not talking about crops. Crops you can plant again. But houses have gone. Animals have gone. It's going to be a terrible time. This is a time for all of us to put our heads together and work, because otherwise, when a person doesn't have money, he doesn't have food, he's got children to feed, he's got families to feed, then I don't want that a third round starts in Punjab, because when you can't feed your families, then these terror gangs that have risen their heads, the drug mafia and the terror mafia, will again come to the fore. So we all need to do that, and there's no better audience and no better people and collection of people here today that I feel can contribute a great deal to that. So it's a great pleasure, and thank you, Harinder, and I'm sure I've got plenty to say, but I'll do it when you do your next book. Okay. Okay.
Thank you very much, sir. Mr. Abdullah, if I could please request you to address the gathering. Thank you.
Captain Amarinder Singh Sahab, the real chief guest of this evening's function, without whom none of us would have been assembled here this evening. Harinder, ladies and gentlemen, I wish I had a story like Captain Amarinder Singh Sahab's to tell you how I first met Harinder. I think it was probably so tame. It probably took place in the study of Dad's home in Gukkar Road, with no bullets, no guns, no firing, except from her and me trying to dodge. Our association really sort of follows the entire spread of my political career. I think I first met her when I first came to Parliament in '98, continued that association through my period in Vajpayee Saab's government, into opposition, into government, and so on and so forth. And in all that time, it's true, she's been a pest, but you know, there are pests and there are pests. There are people whose number comes up on your screen and you wish they didn't have your phone number. You wish you could figure out how to erase that number from either their phone or their memory. And there are those people whose name flashes up and you wonder, okay, what? But then you know the person is fair, and you know at the end of the day, if you tell them that something is off the record, then it's off the record. And if it's on the record, then what you've told them will be reproduced without any editorializing, without any bias, without any twist. And Harinder is in the latter, the latter category. If you tell her something is off the record, that's where it stays. If you tell her something that you want to share, she will reproduce it honestly and diligently, and I think that is evidenced by so many of you being a part of this book launch and us being here. In today's day and age, I can't imagine there are very many of her profession people whose books I'd be happy to be a part of, and in all fairness to them, I don't think there are very many of them who'd like me to be part of their book launch anyway. But Harinder belongs to a tribe that I think are fast dwindling in numbers. We run the risk of seeing this type of journalist almost extinct, which is a pity, because they did what they did and continue what they do, knowing that what they write or what they report is more important than what the government thinks about their reporting. They reported a story because the story was important. They reported a story as they saw it, not as they wanted the government to see it. And I think that is an important distinction that more often than not today is lost. And that's why a book like this is important, because it charts a very violent part of this country's recent past. Punjab, Jammu and Kashmir are of course at the heart of this book, but she's also sort of moved into events in Bombay, touched upon the fallout of Babri Masjid and what it has meant for the country, and interpaced it with the conflict both in Jammu and Kashmir and wider. And therefore, this book, I think for all of us who have my generation and beyond, who have lived through these conflicts, I think it's an important reminder of what we have gone through, and also a reminder, as Captain Saab rightly pointed out, of where we can end up again if we're not careful. Very often decisions are taken without adequate thought, promises are made to try and bring about momentary peace, but the lasting effects of then not keeping those promises are there for people to see. Most recently, what's happened in Ladakh a couple of days ago. You made a promise to a vitally important, strategically important part of the country. You then chose not to keep that promise. And then when people rise up in anger, you wonder why that's happening. And then you start attaching motive to the people who are simply trying to get the government to keep its promise. And that's why I think it's important for us to read this book dispassionately and to remember what this country has gone through and, God forbid, could go through again if we're not careful in how we handle tricky situations. So thank you, Harinder, for putting this book together. Thank you for reminding us of what we've had to live through and for reminding us how important it is to keep this peace alive, to keep these important parts of this country at the forefront of the national attention, to ensure that there is no slippage. Both Ladakh and Pahalgam, I think, are very crucial reminders that no peace is permanent. Every day you have to work at peace. Every day you have to work at ensuring normalcy. And the cost of not doing so is a period that this book has talked about. So thank you very much for having included me in today's event. Thank you for making me a part of your book. But more than that, thank you for 25 years of interesting conversations. There have been occasions when I've gone off in a strop and probably sulked a bit and not taken your calls, but the fact that we soon restored normal communication, I think, is more an indicator of the fact that I came to recognize that what you said was right. I didn't always agree with what you wrote, but that wasn't because what you wrote was wrong. It's just that what you wrote wasn't entirely sort of, how do I put it, favorable to me. And politicians love reading things that are favorable to them. But that's not a reflection on you, that's a reflection on me. So thank you very much for these decades of honest reporting. Thank you for reminding us what true journalism is. And I hope this book serves as a reminder to this current crop and future crop of journalists that governments come and governments go, but the damage that they will do to an institution today would take decades, if not generations, to set right. And again, I don't think that's a price this country wants to pay. So thank you very much and congratulations for your book, Harinder.
Thank you, and now the moment we've all been waiting for, the actual book, the release. Rajdeep needs no introduction. We're deeply grateful that we planned this on a Sunday, that he was free to lead the discussion between the author and our chief guest. Over to you, Rajdeep.
Thank you very much, Priya. First of all, let me say that I assure Shami Harinder that this will not be a TV debate. If it was, I would start by asking her why is she an anti-national? Because she's written the book which in the present political discourse would certainly brand her as an anti-national. It's fair, it's fearless and forthright, and therefore deserves a huge round of applause because it tells the first draft of history for 2 decades in particular, which I believe have shaped this country in ways that we still are struggling to come to terms with. The journalists who did journalism, emphasis on that word, in the 1980s and 90s were truly privileged to have a ringside view of an India that was in turmoil, a turbulent India, and many of the after effects and tremors of that period are still being felt today. And we'll try and explore that because I think what Harinder's book does is connects the past to the present. And you cannot understand the present without really delving into the past. And I think that's the strength of the book. So thank you very much for writing the book. I also want to, just before we start, say I can just imagine what the editors of Shami went through. I mean, I thought I would wing my way through this a week ago. We met for tea and she was as difficult a person in that one-on-one that I've ever had.
As thorough.
As thorough, yes. And after every chapter that I would have finished, I was expected to tell her I'd read it, and I was then asked several questions, most of them at midnight. And it was tough. And I can only feel sorry for Shekhar Gupta, Dilip, Bob, Arun Puri, and all the editors who worked with Shami Baweja, as a journalist should be. So I don't mean that as criticism at all. It's good that we have someone who still believes that there should be an element of thoroughness in what you do. So thank you very much. I have, as you can see, therefore taken copious notes as a result, out of sheer fear.
I want to see if you ask the right questions.
Okay. Now that would be stretching it. If it becomes, now you're acting like someone we know who wants the questions in advance.
Not at all.
So we won't even go into that as well.
Rajiv, you're live.
No, that's okay. I've gone through more. Okay, I'm going to start with the author because you are the star of the show, and then I'll come to our other 2 special guests. And I want to start with Punjab because in a way your tryst with conflict reporting starts there as a young reporter. And there's this incident in the book that struck me because it, I think, reflects the dilemmas that journalists can often confront while doing conflict reporting. A group of Sikh terrorists ask you in a village to remember what had been done to fellow Sikhs during 1984, and they ask you, have you forgotten your religion? Does identity therefore matter to you as a journalist, or did it matter when you covered it as a journalist, particularly a conflict like Punjab? As a proud Punjabi Sikh and Indian, how important was it for you to actually find your way through that conflict?
So I'll answer that question very directly. My religion is journalism. I have never, in fact, when I was sent to Punjab in the early days, my editor chose to send me, and I was a junior reporter then, but he singled me out because he thought, ye to Sikh hai. So he wanted to send me because I was a Sikh journalist, not knowing that my parents had given up long ago on trying to even take me to the Gurdwara. So for me, telling the story, being part of the battlefield was a lot more important than, I've always had, whenever I've been through situations, the stirrings within me are related to humanity, not to religion, Rajdeep. So I've been confronted by so many people, including the incident which you're mentioning. But no, I mean, I I've only striven to be a journalist. A lot of people ask me questions about being, a woman journalist and a Sikh journalist. I just want to be a storyteller. I don't want to be a brand. I just want to be somebody who's perhaps been able to build an archive, and some of that archive is now documented in this book.
The reason I'm asking you that is because we've seen increasingly, and I, maybe facetiously use the word anti-national at the very outset, but it is true that increasingly journalists will find themselves branded and targeted depending on what they report on, how they report on. If you were, for example, critical, to give the latest example of Operation Sindoor and the handling of parts of Operation Sindoor, instantly the response is that you're not wearing the national flag when you're reporting a conflict between India and Pakistan. Do you believe it's important for can a journalist report, as you say, as a journalist, in a conflict that people will take up as a badge of their nationalism, or will judge you on the basis of their nationalism and national identity?
I'm a living example of the fact that you can do it. You can practice journalism the way it was taught to us. You and I have the same boss. I was trained by Arun Puri, who we called Babbar Sher in the office. And all he ever said to us was hit right, hit left, hit center, make sure your stories cast an iron, and leave the rest to me. We did not care about labels. You can call me seditious, you can call me anti-national. V.K. Singh has called us prostitutes. It does not bother me. What bothers me is holding truth to power, being true to the profession. I don't want to be, like I said, a brand. I just want to tell the story, and I want to tell it through the people who inhabit these conflict zones that I've been through for the last 40 years. I think they're the ones whose stories deserve to be told. So be the voice for the disempowered and the voiceless.
Okay.
Those are the principles I've followed.
As you said, you want to be a storyteller above all else. It's the strength of the book that there are lots of stories. And I'm going to start, Captain Saab, with a story that concerns you. It's on page 31. So I've got the page also this time, Shami. It's, you were asked, and you've gone on record with this, and I think this is an important revelation in the book. You were reportedly asked by Indira Gandhi twice to take Rajiv Gandhi to meet Bhindranwale. The meetings didn't happen, and Shami in her book explains why the meetings didn't happen. But clearly, given what happened subsequently, it is significant that there was an attempt made through back channels to try and get Rajiv Gandhi and Bhindranwale to meet, not once, but twice, with you playing the role of, I don't know what you want to call yourself, mediator, interlocutor, but it's fascinating to read about that. You want to tell us a little bit more about that, the times in which this was happening, so that people get a context to it?
What happened was, when this trouble had started, Mrs. Gandhi had put together a team. Swaran Singh, there was Comrade Harkishan Singh Surjit, and Balwant Singh, who was the finance minister of Punjab. And these three were negotiating with the Akalis. And Swaran Singh had taken it on the condition that whatever he agreed with the Akalis, that is the Anandpur Sahib resolution, she would endorse that. Well, something came up, and Swaran Singh said yes, and Mrs. Gandhi said no, so he walked out. He said, now you find somebody else. Now, I was sitting in Parliament in the Central Hall when I got a message that she wants to see me in a parliamentary office. So I went there, and she is the one who told me that she wants me to start with this, talking to Bhindranwale. I said, I don't know him, but if you want, I'll certainly start. And Longowal I knew, because he comes from my mother's area of Punjab. And it's a village called Gidiryani. So anyway, that was the story. And we, as time went by, talks stalled many times. And then Mrs. Gandhi, Rajiv asked me, he said, can you fix a meeting with me with Bhindranwale? I said, I will try. So I asked Mr. Simranjit Singh Man, who was very close to him. I think he was SSP Faridkot in those days. And we agreed to meet. He agreed to come to Ambala Air Force Station. And we were to fly from Delhi, Safdarjung. And we had just barely, we hadn't even started up the engine. We'd come just to the opening, the beginning of Safdarjung, when we got a message to say that the PM wants him to cancel this and come back. This happened. He naturally got upset and he said, "Makhol bana rahe ho mera?" So I said, no, there was some technical defect with the aircraft and we couldn't come. Next time, after about 3 weeks, he said, can you fix it again? I said, I'll try again, but don't let me down now. So he tells me, he said, no, you go ahead. We got airborne, and we were close to Ambala when we were ordered by the control tower to come back. So we came back, landed, I said, what is this happening? What had transpired was, there was a polarization in Punjab against Darbara Singh, the chief minister. And there was Zail Singh and Darbara Singh were at it. He was Home Minister and he was Chief Minister. And all of us, most of us, I was one of them who was against him because I felt he didn't understand the Sikh psyche. He was a Sikh. He was a devout Sikh. He said his prayers, he did everything. But he couldn't understand the political psyche of the Sikh community at that time. So what he used to do was, he used to brief Mrs. Gandhi that, my intelligence is telling me they got an ambush for Rajiv. They'll shoot him if he comes there. So I said, this is all nonsense. This is, I must tell you this story, and I think this is not written anywhere. It's an interesting story. When first she asked me to make contact with him, I got Simranjit Singh Man to fix a meeting. And he said, I can't do it myself, I'm an SSP. But my father, who was the former Speaker of the Punjab Assembly, and earlier than that, in the previous Punjab, before partition, he was also very much involved in their politics. So he went with me. He, and my brother and myself, we had fixed it at Rode village, which was his village. And it was fixed for 10 o'clock. So I arrived there, 10 o'clock, 9:30, 10. Waited, 11, 12, 1, 2. I said, look here, I said, it's freezing cold and I am not going to sit up any longer unless there's something done. So one of their sevadars came, "Doodh le aiye ji," I said, "Nahi, doodh nahi peena main. I am feeling cold now." So to January. So then I was sitting in his room. His room was a little room, half the size, 1/3 of the size of this stage. Just one manji and a Rajai wrapped up at the end, and outside were 2 buffaloes standing, and that was his house. So I told them, I said, look, the only option is that we use Sanchi's Rajai and we sleep in it. So they told me, they said, we are not going to sleep. So Man said, nahi, Santali beyadbi hoegi and all. My brother said, I am not sleeping. I said, well, I am sleeping. So at 2 o'clock in the morning, I got into Sanchi's bed and went to sleep. And I think that is, probably I'm the only one who's ever slept in his bed.
In Bhindranwale's bed.
And that's how I came to know him. When I woke up at 3:30, my brother shook me, woke me, and he was staring down at me. So I was saying, "Main to thand lag rahi thi, main thodi rajai ch pai gaya." He said, "Nahi ji, koi gal nahi." And that's how it all started. So then we got on, we talked. He was quite amenable to having some sort of an understanding. That is why he agreed to come. And had that conversation not been sabotaged, I think we would have made some progress. The demands of the Akalis, Dr. Abdullah knows them much better than me. He was involved in them. He was talking to them also. I used to see him often on pictures visiting the Akal Takht and various other places, trying to bring everyone together and to get this whole thing over. But it never happened, and unfortunately that was it, because Darbara Singh knew one thing about Mrs. Gandhi, that if ever peace came, she would change him. if there was always trouble, he never changed horses in midstream. She never changed horses in midstream. So he didn't let peace come. Now, I think, having said that, I think you should see the documentary of Kamar Sandhu's. I never knew. I was a soldier. I used to go at night to meet both the sons at about 1 in the morning and come out at 3. I saw them building bunkers. I saw them cutting portholes to put LMGs and all. But what figures he's given now, 80 light machine guns, 250, if I remember, cover AK-47s, 350 SLR 7.62s. General will know what I'm talking about. And these sort of things were happening. Where did that ammunition come? When Blaustraw was over and I managed to get in to see something, I was taken to one of the rooms where these LMGs were fixed on fixed lines. And there were empty cartridges which are ankle deep. Now with these thousands, over 1,000 weapons, and many thousands of rounds, God alone knows where they came from. Nobody's investigated that. But this is what started it all off. And I wish we had gone into that meeting and come back. There was a 3-tier discussion on that, groups which discussed. The first one was Mrs. Gandhi and Sant Longowal. The second one was these 3-4 Akalis, Balwant Singh and Barnada and others on one side, and the other side was the Home Minister, PC Sethi, and there was Mr. Venkatraman, who later became president, and one more. There was some, I think, a person from Telangana. What was his name? Anyway, there were 3 of them there. And then there was the
Shiv Shankar.
Sorry?
Shiv Shankar, I think.
Shiv Shankar. And then there was from the Akali side, Ravindra Singh and myself, and the 3 secretaries. Krishna Swami Rao Saab, who was the cabinet secretary. There was the Home Secretary Chaturvedi, and there was Dr. Alexander, who was the principal secretary. That was our nitty-gritty at the bottom, and then it went to the top. So it was an unfortunate thing that happened, that at every stage something or the other was sabotaged.
One of the many missed opportunities, particularly in the Byzantine world of Congress politics at the time, Mr. Manish Tiwari probably knows that kind of politics unfortunately still persists in different forms. But the truth of the matter is, in that era, and reading Harinder's book, the leadership at the time never missed an opportunity to miss an opportunity, and it is
Same
really,
applies for Kashmir now.
Same applies for Kashmir. This was the original quote that the Israelis had for Yasser Arafat, and it applies to different situations in different parts. But you have a story as well, Omar, in the book, which you tell, Shami, which should make headlines, because you claim on record that the contract for Baisaran was given by the Lieutenant General to a local businessman from South Kashmir,
By the LG's government.
by the LG's office, to a local businessman from South Kashmir for 1 crore a year for ticketing, for actually giving tickets for people to go to Baisaran. And therefore, effectively, it seems to me as a reader that this was a business deal. The reason I ask you this is post-Pahalgam, certainly the government tried to make it out to be that they had no idea that Baisaran was open to tourists. I know local journalists who tell me 72,000 tickets were sold between March 1 and April 22nd. People were going there with the knowledge of everyone out there. Now you're adding a new dimension by saying the LG himself and his office had given this contract at 1 crore a year to a South Kashmir businessman. I ask you this also because whenever anything goes wrong in Kashmir, you're blamed. It almost seems that you'd be better off as LG in Kashmir than as the Chief Minister of Kashmir, because no one seems to ask any questions of Manoj Sinha, who's happily, seemingly, I don't even know whether the government has officially issued a notification that he's got an extended term, but he's still very much there. Do you want to tell us more that, in a way, is this also a story like Punjab, of missed opportunities, of the wrong people in the wrong place taking the wrong decisions and then trying to cover up instead of holding themselves accountable?
Well, I'm actually surprised that this is the first you're hearing of the Baisaran contract, because, well, I guess it shows how limited sort of the voices are that come out of the valley sort of at times like this. Because we've been talking about this almost immediately after Pahalgam happened, simply to put to rest the speculation that my government had somehow been careless in opening Baisaran to tourists without permission or without the knowledge of the security forces. The fact is that Baisaran was a ticketed destination, the contract for which had been issued by the Lieutenant Governor's office a year before Baisaran happened. Baisaran was actually in the second year of its operation as a contracted, ticketed destination. And you're correct, more than 70,000 people had already visited Baisaran before the attack in Pahalgam took place. And 70,000 people do not visit a destination without the local police knowing what's happening. So they knew that Baisaran was an open destination. They knew it was ticketed. They knew that there were a large number of tourists visiting. They simply chose to ignore the fact that they knew all this once the Pahalgam attack had happened. And also this there was this attempt to distort facts as if to say that Baisaran actually was only open during the period of the Amarnath Yatra. That also was planted through various newspapers and journalists. Actually, the reverse is true. Baisaran was only closed during the Amarnath Yatra because the security forces were deployed elsewhere. Baisaran actually only closed because of the snow and because of the Amarnath Yatra. Nobody pays 1 crore a year for a small meadow in the mountains if it's going to be open for a month a year. The math simply doesn't add up. Baisaran as a destination was open for at least 8 to 9 months a year. 1 crore a year was paid to the tourism department, and all this was done with the knowledge of the Lieutenant Governor a year before the elected government. So anybody who tells you that Baisaran took place because the tourism department got greedy and opened the place up without permission, etc., is being a little disingenuous or a little sort of flexible with the truth. Now, is Jammu and Kashmir another story of missed opportunities? Of course it is. We wouldn't be with a 35-year history of violence and bloodshed, violence that ebbs and flows, good periods and bad, if we hadn't missed opportunities on both sides. Let's be honest. The militants, the separatists, they had enough opportunities to get a lot more than they ended up with. There was a time in the early 90s when Rajiv Gandhi was leader of the opposition and had come as part of a delegation to Kashmir to try and see what could be done in the course of dialogue. And the interlocutors he met there from the separatist camp, he told them कि आप सारा कुछ ले लो, जितना आपको चाहिए बस थोड़ा सा रिश्ता हमारे साथ रख लीजिए, आप भूटान के तरह जम्मू कश्मीर को कर लीजिए, बस थोड़ा सा आप हमारे साथ रख लीजिए. And again, never miss an opportunity to miss an opportunity. Of course, that time they thought that they'll get a lot more. That was on that side of it. On the other side of it is the promises that have been made and then not fulfilled. So there have been opportunities in the past to put this conflict to rest, and more often than not, we've lost those opportunities. Even today, I dare say, you're losing an opportunity. The fact is that you had a historic turnout in 2 successive elections last year, parliament elections and assembly elections. It was followed up by a completely organic protest against the attack in Pahalgam, something people who follow Kashmir have never seen. Harinder will tell you, in all the years she's followed Kashmir, she will never have seen people come out and condemn violence the way they did in the aftermath of Kashmir. Rajdeep will never have seen it. I hadn't seen it. But I hazard a guess that if you were to have an election in Jammu and Kashmir today, your turnout will drop. it will be less than what it was a year ago. Simply because promises that have been made, particularly with regard to the status of the government in Jammu and Kashmir. Rajdeep said, would you rather be the Lieutenant Governor? No, I wouldn't. Why should I split power? I'd like to be the Chief Minister, but with the powers that are with the Lieutenant Governor returned to the Chief Minister of Jammu and Kashmir. Why should security and law and order be somebody else's responsibility? I have been elected by the people of Jammu and Kashmir. It's my responsibility to govern and to give the people a responsible government, and all the powers that are required for that should be given to me. So no, I don't want to be the Lieutenant Governor. I want to be the Chief Minister of Jammu and Kashmir, but with the powers that the Lieutenant Governor has, restored to the elected Chief Minister of Jammu and Kashmir.
And
I just want to add a couple of lines. We were talking about the role of the media. I mean, the Whisper campaign, including on all mainstream television channels, was asking for Omar Abdullah's head. I'm not saying this because he's sitting next to me, but it's a fact. People were asking for the Chief Minister's head, not knowing that security is not even a part of his domain. Security lies with the LG, not with the Chief Minister. And in the course of the interview, which you've quoted from the book, he also said that I don't want to be a part of those security meetings because I'm not willing to sit there just to add numbers. If I can add value, yes. But Rajdeep, honestly, why is statehood being dangled like a political carrot? If electoral strategies lie at the core of, what I would call political misadventurism, and if the BJP is waiting for saffron to reach the polling booth, I'm really sorry, but in the valley, the only saffron I've seen is the one growing in the fields of Pampor and the ones we use in our curries and our kheer. So political mistakes come with a heavy price. That is one of the lessons that conflict reporting has taught me over 40 years. It's murky. I've watched with, utmost awe and admiration how intelligence agencies work, and there's a lot about that in the book as well. But I just wanted to add that bit about Jammu and Kashmir to Umar Sahibzada.
It is a murky world out there. And one of the chapters, or one of the characters who represents part of this sort of dark and light that creeps through the book and indeed is true in real life is Yasin Malik. You're shrugging your shoulder, Shami, when you speak about it, but
I'm not shrugging my shoulder. I'm actually
so there are two
shattering,
parts. There are two parts to that. First is, of course, you reveal in the book that Yasin propositioned you, if I may use that word. Mujhse dosti karogi, right?
I would call it harassment.
Okay, harassment. Right. Okay. The other part of it, which is relevant to, again, that's why I said the book connects the past to the present. We've just seen in the last week an affidavit being put out as if to suggest that the Manmohan Singh government was the first to kickstart a political dialogue with Yasin Malik, and almost ends up compromising the intelligence agencies of the time, which is very worrying. There are intelligence officials, I guess they can't speak out, but they should realize what's happening. When an affidavit is selectively used in this manner to almost suggest as if Yasin Malik was only dealing with Manmohan Singh and not before or since, as you document in the book, a series of governments over the last 25 years saw in Yasin Malik someone whom they could use to kickstart a political dialogue. Therefore, one of the challenges presumably is to give context, which is missing today. Today you look at Yasin Malik, you look at a television channel, and they will see Yasin Malik as the villain of the day. He may well be a villain.
The problem, Rajdeep, is that, every channel promises us sense, not sensationalism, but all we get is sensationalism. We don't get the sense. But let me give you the context.
Yeah.
There was a deal with Yasin Malik. It is true. It happened in the 90s. It happened during when Rajesh Pilot was the Minister for Internal Security. He was in jail, as you know and are aware, accused for the killing of 4 Indian Air Force officers, as well as for the kidnapping of the Union Home Minister's daughter, Rubaiyah Saeed. So I was talking about covert operations. So there was a deal made in which Yasir Malik was released in the hope that he would go back to Kashmir in the 90s when the state was under governor's rule. So what I did is I booked myself on the same flight as Yasir Malik because I wanted to see what kind of a reception he would get when he reached Kashmir. And Farooq Sahib is sitting here, he knows the 90s. There was not a single day without an attack. Whether it was a bullet or a bomb, there was violence every single day on the streets of Jammu and Kashmir. And I was very keen, as a journalist, to document the kind of reception that Yasir Malik was going to get when he reached Srinagar. So again, a very helpful IB officer gave me his landline number in Delhi, made it very crystal clear to me who was behind that deal. I mean, of course, it's part of their job, I guess. So I'm on the same flight as Yasir Malik. We land in Srinagar. The journey from the airport to Mysuma, where he lives, ordinarily should take 40-45 minutes. That day it took 6 to 7 hours because people had turned out in the thousands. Here was this man considered to be the grand hero of Kashmir's liberation movement. The government was hoping that he would go there and declare a ceasefire and help kickstart a political process. So I'm part of this cavalcade driving from the airport to Mysuma, and he told me that he'd give me an interview after he addresses the audience at Mysuma. The minute he took the stage at Mysuma, he swooned and he fell and he had to be taken to the hospital. Now my heart sank because as a journalist, what did I want? I wanted my interview. Okay? So I quite... Anyway, his aides told me, don't worry, we'll make sure you get the interview. 2 days later, I got a phone call. Those were the days of landline phones. But I was given a set of instructions. Please come late in the night. And late in the night, in the 90s, in Srinagar, I mean, you're foolish if you want to be out on the streets at that time. Everybody used to shut their shops and run home before sunset. But I said, fine, I'm willing to take the chance. After all, I'm here to do an interview. So I reach the hospital, and he's lying down in a bed surrounded by those hospital curtains. I sit on that stool meant for attendants next to the hospital bed. And I want to narrate this story because, you know, I don't think, I asked myself this question while writing this chapter, that do I want to tell it? And I think I needed the cathartic comfort of words to tell the story. And I don't see why women should whitewash their experiences. So I wrote it. So I'm sitting in this hospital, on that stool, and instead of giving me an interview, he extends his hand and he says, "Mujhse dosti karogi?" I honestly froze on that stool. Anyway, I got the interview, and I came back. My India Today colleagues are here, they will remember, and they said, "Oh, you danger junkie. This is what you're up to all the time." But they also said, give him the benefit of doubt. They know that I was going back to Kashmir 2-3 times a month. Give him the benefit of doubt, go back and seek a second interview with him, which I did. So the second time I go, he calls me to his house. We're sitting in a room on a Kashmiri rug, which is a very beautiful tradition in Kashmir. You go and sit on the floor. There are 4 gunmen outside the room, shuffling their feet, holding AK-47s. So I'm sitting there in front of Yasir Malik. He's out as part of a deal. Fine. And there is a journalist. All I want is an interview. And just to cut a long story short, I don't want to reveal too many details. Please read the book. But allow me to read out only 4 lines from the book. So, second meeting. why don't we talk about the moon and the stars today? Why do you always talk about work? I'm sorry, I talk about work because I'm here on work. I believe, and this is the point that I got angry. First in Urdu, the way he said it. Kal raat aap फौज के साथ, आर्मी के साथ तो बड़ी अयाशी कर रही थी. I believe you had a good time at the army dinner last night. The liberator who had thousands chanting after him was taunting me, trying to scare me. I was not scared. I told him very clearly that tomorrow when I go back to the army, they will say to me that, oh, you met Yasin Malik yesterday. And I will tell them that is a part of my job. I will meet militants. I will interview terrorists. I will interview the politicians. I will go to the 15 Corps headquarters. I will go wherever my job takes me because I will tell a story from all sides.
I'm going to come back to Kashmir and Punjab in a moment, but there's another chapter in the book which I can identify with, relate to, which is what happened in Mumbai. And it is my belief that what happened on December 6, 1992, what happened subsequently still continues to haunt us in 2025. You interviewed Chota Rajan, the gangster, at a time when Mumbai's underworld suddenly got divided post-1992 on communal lines. And you make the point that Dawood Ibrahim had all these contacts in the Indian embassy in Dubai, and then intelligence agencies tried to use Chota Rajan to eliminate Dawood in a way, including Ajit Doval, the present NSA, who was part of that entire attempt. How do we get Dawood Ibrahim? You want to tell us whether these underworld characters are, as your book seems to suggest, Chota Rajan is this sort of was seen in the world as this deadly underworld don, but very different actually when you go and interview them. He was again someone being used by intelligence agencies and the government to try and eliminate Dawood Ibrahim.
Indeed, there was a plan and a plot, and we know that for a fact, Rajdeep. I mean, I've interviewed Chota Rajan not once but thrice, but I did get the first interview with him in Kuala Lumpur. Soon after the Mumbai blast in 1993, one day I reached my office at the India Today magazine, and the receptionist, who handed us messages from the various people who had called us said, "Oh, hi, good morning. Some Chota Rajan had called." So I've another freeze moment, and I said, "What? Who? Who called? Chota Rajan called?" I quickly snatched that piece of paper, and it was a satellite phone number, I still remember. Anyway, I fixed, and I was told, come to Kuala Lumpur in Malaysia. Arun Puri, the editor-in-chief at that time, Babur Sher, had no problems in, signing off on that travel plan. So I arrive in Kuala Lumpur. My suitcase doesn't show up, but that's another story. And his aide picked me up from the airport. So now I'm waiting, where is Chota Rajan going to show up? When am I going to get my interview? This is the first interview Chota Rajan is giving after the 1993 Mumbai blast. So the aide says, there are very good casinos in Genting, so should we go up to Genting? So I'm like in my head thinking, okay, so maybe Chota Rajan is going to show up at a casino. So we drive up to casino, to Genting. I tried my luck at gambling. I've always been a great gambler in life. Maybe that's why I've done conflict reporting. So I came back $300 richer, but I didn't have the interview, but I subsequently got it. And he was this stodgy, man. In my head, I was wondering, what is this? There were no photographs, by the way, of Chota Rajan till I brought them back from his flat in Kuala Lumpur, and India Today is the only magazine at that time in the 90s which got pictures, because he allowed me to go through his marriage album, and I got pictures of him with Dawood also in them. So yes, the underworld was split along communal lines. It became very clear even in my first interview, because in that interview he talked about being available to defend Shiv Sena Supremo Bal Thackeray if the need arose. So the split was evident, and then there was this plot that unraveled. Chota Rajan was being used by Mr. Doval, who had retired as a director of the Intelligence Bureau, had not become the National Security Advisor, let me clarify. And the other thing when you cover conflict zones, which is so fascinating, is the rivalry that exists between forces. Mr. Dua, you're smiling and I know why. So, you know, the Mumbai police versus the Delhi police, the BSF versus the army in Kashmir. I mean, there are these internecine battles going on between IB and RAW. I wish everybody would be on the same page. We'd have less conflict, but maybe we'd have less stories to tell as journalists if that were to happen. So Mr. Doval was out on a busy street in Delhi when his car was halted, and Chota Rajan's sharpshooters were in that car. Now, Mumbai police had traveled to Delhi to arrest these two. I think Mr. Doval, although I have to be fair, like Omar said, I'm fair. He has always maintained that he was sitting at home watching television, but I don't expect him to say that he was actually sitting in that car. So the sharpshooters were caught, and the fact of the matter is that there is an interview on record by the former Union Home Secretary, I think given to the India Today channel, in which he said there was a plan by the Intelligence Bureau to try and get Dawood in Dubai. His daughter was getting married to Javed Miadad's son, and they believed that it would be very difficult for a father to stay away from his daughter's wedding. But the plot failed because of the internal rivalry between agencies that I've seen at play once too often.
And there are stories about those internal rivalries, particularly when it comes to surrendered militants and the entire politics that came about again in the 1990s. I want to come to my two other guests as we sort of draw to a conclusion, because there's a line that Shami has towards the end of the book, which I think I want both of you to reflect upon. She says it in the context of Kashmir, but it could be just as true of Punjab, where she says, Kashmir hamara hai needs to be changed to Kashmiri hamare hai. That governments have often over the years, not just any one single government, but over the years have treated Kashmir as a piece of land. So Kashmir hamara hai, Kashmiri hamare hai, so that you bring out the human dimension. And that could be as true, Captain Saab, of Punjab as well. That from time to time, governments seem to believe that it's the heavy hand of the state that is enough to ensure that those who perhaps have a separatist mindset can be brought under control, without recognizing that, as you pointed out, when flood relief and when there is genuine discontent and anger among people, you need to resolve it. Who do you hold responsible for that? As someone who's seen it from the inside, is the mindset of the state, of the all-powerful Indian state, that we have to ensure, above all else, that we have complete control over a situation? The human dimension is forgotten. What it is about is, and many believe that that's the way forward. There are those even in this audience, I'm sure, who believe that's it, that we need to enforce first the writ of the state above it. What matters, the writ of the state or looking at the human dimension? That's, if you don't look at the human dimension, then the anger and discontent spills over. Captain Saab, you and then Omar.
I think there is something you should know about the way these states, way the union government functions with the state. I can speak on my my state. If you recall, Mr. Chandrasekhar had become Prime Minister. And he had made a call, given a call, that anyone who wants to surrender can come and surrender, their weapons will be taken, and they will be eventually let go. So one person I mentioned earlier, a chap called Manjinder Baweja from Taran Taran, in one of his villages, there was one of these terrorist chiefs who had about 25, 30 people with him. And he rang me up, he said, this chap wants to surrender. So I said, yes, I'll find out. So I rang up the Prime Minister. I said, sir, this chap wants to say, this is your public statement. हाँ लेके आओ. तो मैंने क्या पहले मैं उनसे बात करके लेके आऊँ. So I went to the village, which was, you could see the Pakistani, those observation posts, maybe a few hundred yards from there. So we went through the sugarcane fields, and suddenly I was surrounded by these various chaps with guns. And then he said, we want to take you to our chief. So we went to the chief. The chief was sitting near a tube well. He gave me lassi to drink, and the other chap also. And then he said, Maji, I said, who are you? So he gave me his name. Now I forget his name. I shouldn't, because it's been on my conscience ever since. But anyway, I said, you said this, so Manjinder is here, he's your MLA. And he told me, so I spoke to the Prime Minister. He said, I am willing to surrender. He had been some Bhindranwale's driver, and he had broken through a police cordon, and they had opened fire, and he had lost his lower jaw. It had been shot off. And anyway, so I said, well, get into the car. He said, मैं कल्ला, मैं क्या, you come कल्ला. So I was the two of us in front, and we put him, because there are a lot of checkposts of the police all along. So we put him on where the feet of the rear seat was, and we chucked a blanket over him, and I had two policemen who were my escorts. I said, you sit on him now. So it looks like we are just carrying a bag or something like that. And we managed to, when I got to Ambala, that time we didn't have these phones. I called the PM again. I said, sir, we are on our way, we'll be there with you, and so on. So time he said, सीधे मेरे घर आ जाओ. वो South Block में उनका घर होता था. I never went to the PM's office. So I went there, and we arrived in the evening, and he was there with about 4 or 5 chaps in civic clothes. And so he says, आप हैं? He said, हाँ, कोई बात नहीं. आप इनके पास चले जाओ, आपका ध्यान रखेंगे, and आपको ले जाएंगे वहाँ सबसे. And we'll look after you, hand over your weapons and all. So matter was over. He was taken over by whoever those people in civis were, IB or whoever. And about 3 weeks later, I met Manjinder, came to Chandigarh. I said, Manjinder, is all well? He said, what all's well? I said, what's happened? He said, after you went, they took him somewhere. Then they went to Taran Taran, and they took all these 26 people into custody, and a week later they were all shot. So if a Prime Minister's assurance goes this way, then who's going to trust you? That's probably what you're trying to see. And that's first hand. Many times after that, many people have asked me to surrender. That time I said, no, don't go to me, go to somebody else and take it.
Which comes down to the trust deficit, Omar. Kashmir hamara hai, Kashmiri hamare hai ya nahi remains a far more difficult slogan, it seems, for the center to embrace.
How much of a difference one alphabet will make?
Sure,
Kashmir,
the I.
Kashmiri, the I.
आज तो लद्दाखी भी हमारे नहीं हैं. I mean, we are, chalo, as we say, na, purane papi. But look at the people of Ladakh and what we are doing to them today. A gentleman who, until yesterday, was, दूध का धुला हुआ. When he praised the Prime Minister, nobody found fault with him. He praised the Prime Minister as an environmental warrior, thanked him profusely for 2019 for fulfilling the dreams of the Ladakhis by giving them union territory status. Today, suddenly, we found a Pakistani connection. Where? In 2 days. 2 days ago there was no Pakistani connection. Now suddenly there is one. And then you wonder why there is a trust deficit. When you wanted the people of Ladakh to participate in the Hill Council elections, you promised them 6th schedule, knowing fully well that giving 6th schedule to Ladakh is all but impossible, because 6th schedule makes it impossible to acquire land even for defense purposes. And a territory that shares frontiers with China on one side and Pakistan on the other, how can you not have a sizable defense set up there? So where will the 6th schedule work? But at that time, because you wanted them to participate in elections, you promised it to them, and today you're reaping the benefits of that. In Jammu and Kashmir, you told us it's a 3-stage process. That first delimitation will happen, then elections will happen, then statehood will happen. The first 2 processes you complete. The third process then goes nowhere. And then you wonder why there is a trust deficit. How many prime ministers have coined phrases that have been attractive to hear? Short of Azadi, sky is the limit. No less a person than Narsimha Rao. Insaniyat, Jamhuriyat, Kashmiriyat. No less a prime minister than Prime Minister Vajpayee. Dil se duri aur dil ki duri. Dono dur karenge. No less a person than our current Prime Minister. But unless you actually put something behind the words, all they will do is frustrate people. So, the point you're making, Rajdeep, is valid for not just for Jammu and Kashmir, not just for Punjab, but anywhere in this country where there is trouble. Parts of the northeast, whatever little part of the country is left fighting Maoist violence. The fact is that governments have to win trust. And I don't believe that the writ of a government runs in conflict with a soft approach. Because your entire population is not up against you. There is a section that is. So by all means, the section that is up against you, the section that espouses violence, the state will have to make sure its writ runs. But you can't make the entire population suffer because of a handful of people. Most recently, the observations that were made in the Supreme Court in connection with Jammu and Kashmir statehood, deeply distressing and troubling. That statehood can't be considered for Jammu and Kashmir. Look at what happened in Pahalgam. So suddenly Pakistan now will decide whether Jammu and Kashmir should have statehood or not. Because every time we come close to statehood, something like Pahalgam will happen, and again we will be set back. If this is a commitment, if there was a 3-stage process, then it has to be fulfilled. It can't be, as Harinder rightly said, it can't be used as a carrot dangled for good behavior. Behave yourselves, theek hai, we'll talk about statehood, behave badly, and we won't. Or the people of Jammu and Kashmir are told that until you vote a BJP government, statehood is not an option for you. You want to own the people, then own the people. And then it's not about the land, it's about the people. It's not about Kashmir, it's about Kashmiri. It's about the people of Jammu and Kashmir, the people of Ladakh. We make that small difference in just the nomenclature, you make a huge difference on the ground. And the people want to be owned. Again, I make that point. They have shown it to you time and again over the last 2 years, 3 years. They want to be owned, they want to be listened to, they want to be respected. It's a question of meeting in the middle. That's it.
Okay, so as we conclude, we started off with the author and the star of the show. Let's end with her. No, we'll end with your visit to Muridke. I had the fortune of going to the Hizbul Mujahideen headquarters many years ago. And what struck me was Sayyid Salahuddin, who at that time was seen as what Hafiz in a way is seen as today. actually was more interested in telling me how he might have become the PWD minister of Jammu and Kashmir. And it is after having locked us up in a room and kept the camera away from us and threatening to break it, once he warmed up, it became about a politician who wanted to win that 87 election, which Farooq Saab can tell us more on another day. I won't go down that route of 87. But I want to ask you, are you a danger junkie, essentially? Is this all about, I want to be the first person to interview Chota Rajan, I want to be in Murid Ke, I want to be where, quote unquote, the action is. Has that driven your sense of being part of the world of conflict reporting, the idea of being a danger junkie?
Rajdeep, you're not scaring me. I have a hunger in my belly, for good stories. My editors have trusted me with assignments that have taken me to all these places that you mentioned, including to Murid Ke. I honestly, 26/11 had just happened, and it was 10 days. Ajmal Kasab had been arrested, the sole terrorist who sailed the high seas, and he had started talking. And I woke up one morning to a message, I was with Tehelka then, from my editor Tarun Tejpal, saying, apply for a visa to Pakistan. So again, I sat in bed and I said, this guy has lost it. Why will Pakistan want an Indian journalist sniffing around on their soil soon after Ajmal Kasab has been arrested? And Mumbai has been attacked, the most audacious attack India has seen. To my utter surprise, I was given a visa. And then Tarun asked me, so what is the story that you can do from there? I said, I am very clear in my head. There is only one story. And the story is to go into the headquarters of the Lashkar-e-Taiba. I had already seen a team of foreign journalists being escorted into that complex before I boarded my flight for Lahore. So I told Tarun, but there is a risk. I may be kidnapped, I don't know what will happen. So he said in his typical style, oh, if that happens, we'll have an even bigger story. So it's fine. So go ahead and, good luck. So I think you need courage to dig facts. You need a certain amount of luck as well. And luck comes your way if you make contacts and you keep their trust and you don't let them down. And I have, in my book, talked about how I managed to breach the gates of the Lashkar-e-Taiba. I have not named the minister, but he was a powerful minister. The second time that I went back to the Lashkar headquarters, I was helped by Nawaz Sharif. That I've named Nawaz Sharif. And it would be interesting for all of you sitting here to know that my escort and minder who took me into the Lashkar headquarters was Hafiz Saeed's son-in-law. He's the one who escorted me there, and obviously I did not go in thinking I'm going to see militants, practicing for their next attack on Watan-e-Hind, as they call India. But we had a very subtle conversation, and I've reproduced the conversation in the book. So again, I don't want to reveal too many details, but I do have an appetite. I don't know, you can call me a danger junkie, that's fine, I can live with that.
I think that's okay. That's a fairer word than calling you anti-national, because you're not that. You've given an authentic version, as you saw it, of a first draft of history from a dramatic period, as I said at the outset, in Indian politics and conflict reporting, the kind that perhaps this country hopefully will not see in the future. The 80s and 90s in many ways have scarred many people. But thank you very much.
May I add one line?
Yes.
May I add one line?
How can I stop you?
I'm happy.
I don't interrupt. It's not a TV show.
I'm happy being a danger junkie as long as you don't call out my gender and say, oh, but as a woman, how do you navigate conflict zones.
Hold on. I didn't use the word gender once
You did.
in this entire conversation.
That's why I'm bringing it
So I
up.
didn't even get into that.
That is
Now we'll get into troublesome territory.
That is why I
don't even want to
interrupted you to thank you for not calling out my gender. Thank
Okay.
you.
Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, please give a very big hand to all our guests here on this very special show. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Usually I would be wrapping things up and saying thank you for coming, but we have a special guest who's going to say the last word, and that is Dr. Abdullah. Please could I invite you up on stage? Thank you.
Come here, I'll go on.
He'll just come and stand.
How can I know?
Will he
खड़ा
stand?
नहीं होगा
Should we stand?
इधर आ जाए इधर आओ
नहीं, मैं ठीक हूँ।
आप सबको बहुत बहुत आदाब। उमर ने भी और अमरिंदर सिंह जी ने भी बहुत डिटेल से आपसे बात की। बेसिक फैक्टर मैं आपसे कहूँ, पहले तो मैं हरिंदर को मुबारक करूँ। एक एयरफोर्स अफसर की बेटी है जो कभी डरता नहीं था, वतन के लिए कहीं भी कुर्बानी देने के लिए तैयार थे। दिस गोज फॉर ऑल पीपल हु सर्व इन आवर फोर्सेस। और हरिंदर ने मेरे ख्याल से यही अपने बाप से सीखा। कई चीजें आपने कही। बेसिक फैक्टर जो है इज ट्रस्ट। They don't trust. They want you to be a slave. They will tell you to put your thumb impression here, but they don't realize that you come from the people. And if you lose people, you've got nothing. You have to respect sentiments of the people. That they didn't do. And they don't even do it now. I hope it will change. When? I cannot say. अमरिंदर सिंह जी ने आपके सामने बहुत डिटेल में भिंगरावाली की बात की। मैं चीफ मिनिस्टर बना था 82 में और मैं अमृतसर गया गोल्डन टेम्पल माथा टेकने, मांगने कि मुझे स्ट्रेंथ दे कि मैं इस रियासत को चला सकूं, इसकी मुश्किलें दूर कर सकूं, वतन को मजबूत कर सकूं। तो मुझे नीचे अकाली दल के लोग बैठे थे। उन्होंने मुझसे कहा कि हैज इंदिरा गांधी सेंट यू? आई सेड नो नो, आई हैव कम माई सेल्फ। एंड दे टोल्ड मी ऑल व्हाट ही सेड टू यू, सोरेन सिंह's mission. Then suddenly Bhindranwala called me. He was just up there in on the roof. But he said, none of your security will come. I said, that's not on. Because if anything happens to me, they will be on the chopping list. So he agreed. There I go. There is a man, dark, wearing dark clothes, and camera in front, recording what he was saying. And every single person there was less than 25 years. And the weapons they had, even my security people didn't have. So he told me, in Tate Punjabi, मुनिया तुझे पता है सिखा दे तो मुसलमाना ना एक होना चाहिए, हिंदू हम सब को खत्म करेंगे। मैंने कहा मेरे बाप ने मुझे सिखाया है हिंदू मुस्लिम सिख ईसाई हम सब हैं भाई भाई। He said, I told your father the same thing. He didn't listen. See the tragedies he went through. I said, that's life.
I realized there that he will use the name of Panth and he will eliminate all these Akalis that are sitting downstairs. And God only knows what will happen, and Kashmir has no other way to the rest of the country without Punjab. So I rang Mrs. Gandhi right from the airport and I said, I want to come and see you. She said, come straight home. I went. I told her the entire picture. She said, what do we do? I said, here is Amrinder. He wasn't there. I said, use Amrinder and Rajiv. Because if you use anybody else, वो मक्खन लगाएगा अपना मतलब निकालने के लिए. कहा अच्छा, you think that's the best? I said, that's the best. बातचीत का रास्ता मत छोड़िए, उसी से रास्ता निकलेगा. He told you the rest of the story. Second incident. When he was killed, you know, at 9 o'clock, I get a phone call from Delhi that please issue curfew. I said, at 9 o'clock when people are on the street, I'll issue curfew? I went to the Sikh areas. I said, please maintain calm. We're not responsible. That's how they believed, they trusted me. They didn't think that Farooq is probably part of us. I was a Khalistani, I was a Pakistani, I was an American agent. Thank God I was not a Russian agent or a Chinese agent. Everywhere they used this. With impunity they used this. But they didn't know that my heart beats for India. And even today beats for India. But India, a secular India, where all are equal, there's nobody higher and there's nobody lower. That is the India I want to see. I want to die seeing that India. Third, Yasin Malik. I never met Yasin Malik. But one of my friends from the IB asked me, would you like to see Yasin Malik? I said, yes, if it's possible, I'll go and see him. He was kept in a safe house, border of Gurgaon and Delhi. I went and saw him. And he was blabbing about independent Kashmir. I said, look, I'm the chief minister. 5,000 crores is what we spend. And development is separate. And the amount of tax we earn is 800 crores. How will you do this? How will you move the state forward? You have a nuclear China, you have nuclear Pakistan, you have nuclear India. How will you do it? मान के दिमाग में फतूर था और उस फतूर ने बिड़ा गर्क किया जम्मू कश्मीर का. We are still paying the price of this. Professor Ghani, before his death, said that our path was wrong. We shouldn't have gone on that. Ladies and gentlemen, you have to win hearts of people. Not by torture, not by guns and beating them with lathis, curfews and all the rest. If you want to win people, you have to win their heart. When Prime Minister called us, I had just recovered from COVID. I was hardly able to move. They said, please, can you come? I said, I'm not in a position to come. They said, we'll make arrangements for you. And you wouldn't believe the words I used. I said, Mr. Prime Minister, you don't trust us and we don't trust you. Unless we create that trust factor between us, we will never move forward. What is the reason you don't give us statehood? Why? Are we going to Pakistan? Are we going to become China? Why are you denying us our right? And then you think we should carry people with us? They'll say tomorrow, hell with you, who are you? You didn't do anything for us. Is that what they want? Ladies and gentlemen, I beg you, please understand us. We're not Pakistanis. If we had to go to Pakistan in 1947, my father would have joined Jinnah. Jinnah thought that because we are Muslims, we are in his pocket. We showed him we are not in his pocket. So now, I tell you, please own us. Try to understand us. We have hurts. मरहम की ज़रूरत है. उस मरहम की ज़रूरत ज़रूरी है. कोई भी बात आप कर ले तो कहते हैं एंटी नेशनल. अरे तुम नेशनल हो क्या? तुम्हें वो स्टैंप अपने ऊपर लगा रखा है कि तुम ही नेशनल हो, बाकी कोई नहीं है? ये हाल है हमारा. जैसे उमर ने कहा आपको, बाइसरन का. मुझे ये बताइए, उसी दिन जिस दिन पार्लियामेंट में डिबेट है, why are those 4 people eliminated only on that day? And you do not show faces of those people so that we can verify are they the same people. I'm telling you another incident, a shocking incident. When Sikhs were slaughtered in Chatti Singhpora, Clinton was here that day, if you remember. Clinton was here. So I told Clinton, I said, look, I can't eat food. Innocent people have been killed. You won't believe. I'm grateful to Jait Malani ji. He sent a judge, very honest judge, who investigated those 5 people that were lifted from the shops and killed, that they were the ones who did this. Do you know what happened? I asked the same judge to investigate Chatti Singhpora. I'm very sorry to tell you. He got a call, I won't mention who, that you will not investigate. My God, where are we living? What are we trying to do? We want to save India for all of us, for my children, for their children. So let's create that India where there's no hate. When I see his program, straight back, I say to myself, why the hell is he not in the jail? Honestly, I tell you. Because I'm surprised the way he brings the thing forward. I wonder whether they listen to what he says. I hope you keep it up. And God bless you. Thank you. Thank you for calling me here.
Thank you very much.
Farooq Saab, thank you. I've known you long enough, and I can read the pain in your voice. And I'm only going to seek the publisher's indulgence to read out the last 4 lines of the book, because it's something that Farooq Saab mentioned. In fact, my publisher, when I sent her the manuscript, she asked me, do you despair? So I said, yeah, there are moments I despair, but then I also have my mechanisms of how to lift myself out of that. And Priya mentioned Mohammad Rafi in her introductory remarks. So from the book, Rafi's lilting voice is soulful, and the lyrics of the rational anthem carry deep meaning. Tu Hindu banega na Musalman banega, इंसान की औलाद है, इंसान बनेगा. It is from the movie Dhool Ka Phool. In the movie, the song is sung by a Muslim father who is bringing up a Hindu child. And the movie was made decades ago in 1959. we want to go back to those times and not create fresh fault lines. That's the note I'd like to end on. That's the only chord that can take us forward. Thank you.
Thank you.
God bless you.
Thank you all very much. I'd like to once again thank Shammi, our chief guest, Dr. Abdullah and Rajdeep. Thank you very much for being such a good audience. Thank you.
Thank you so much. God bless you.